Tonight I'm making caprese chicken, all in one pan, simple summertime dish with easy cleanup. So I'm going to flip it around for you guys. Okay, first of all, I have about 1/3 of a cup there of balsamic vinegar. I try to look for balsamic vinegar that's just wine vinegar and grape must without any added sugar or sulfites or caramel color in it. All right, and I'm going to turn this on to high and bring this to a boil. Hi Autumn, hi Lene. All right. So I'm just going to turn that on high and wait for that to come to a boil. Then we're going to turn it down to medium and let this simmer for about 5 to 8 minutes until it's a little bit thicker. Oh, it's already starting to simmer around the edges. Let's see. Watch this real quick because we're probably going to be able to boil this pretty quickly. Here we go. We're coming up to a bubble there. Nice. This will be thicker and sweeter once we've reduced it. Alright, so I'm going to say that's boiling there. I'm going to turn that down to medium and let that go, I said, for about 5 to 8 minutes or until it's kind of thick and coating the spoon. Alright, so I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Over here we have some chicken, and I have it in 2 separate pans so that James can have a dairy-free pan. If you're just doing it for your family and there's no allergy restrictions, you can do it all in one pan or do everything allergy-friendly. So, we have a weakness for fresh mozzarella. It's yummy, so we're going to splurge on that. So I'm going to go ahead and add our grape tomatoes to the pan. Got some fresh grape tomatoes here. I'm going to leave the chicken in the middle and put the grape tomatoes around the edges. I'll put most of them in ours, but I'll give James a few tomatoes too, just to see if he'll eat those. Never know with the toddler what they're going to eat or not. Alright, finish shaking those in there. Whoops. You can do this on a baking sheet pan too with the rim, but I prefer to use a deeper glass or other kind of baking dish, whatever oven safe baking dish you have. I like the deeper rim. There's less chance something's going to spill and make a mess. Right now I'm going to drizzle with some olive oil over the chicken and the tomatoes. Just kind of eyeballing it. That looks pretty good. Drizzle a little olive oil in here. You won't need quite as much. Alrighty. And I'm just going to toss the coat here. Get everything coated in the olive oil. And put some tomatoes in the middle there, kind of separate out. Alright, it's looking nice and pretty and well coated. Get my hands right real quick. Alright, I went ahead and ground some salt and pepper over here so that it'd be easy to access. So I'm going to sprinkle some salt and pepper. To get the chicken and the tomatoes. The higher you kind of rain down, the easier it is to get it evenly distributed. If I don't have to be exact or anything. That's one reason I like grinding the salt and pepper fresh, is that when you're doing it out of the grinder, it's really easy to get it kind of evenly distributed over everything. That's kind of hard to do one-handed. All right, and I also have some Italian seasoning here. gonna sprinkle a little bit of Italian seasoning. I'm gonna do mostly on the chicken for the Italian seasoning, but some might get on the tomatoes. If you don't have Italian seasoning on hand, but you have, like basil or oregano, thyme, rosemary, sage, the types of herbs, that all those are good too to use. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to kind of give these another quick little toss and really get the salt and pepper kind of distributed over the tomatoes with the olive oil. Let's rub the chicken a little bit too. Alright, so those tomatoes are nice and coated. Alright, so these are about ready to pop in the oven now. So I went ahead and preheated our oven to 400 degrees. Oh. And while I wasn't watching, alright, this is definitely thick enough, and I might just redo this. I probably should have watched it and stirred it a little bit closer. It cooked a little bit quicker than I had intended, and sometimes that happens. So I might just, start from scratch with that. That's a little bit too thick, I think. I found though, if you go ahead and let it soak and get it out of the hot, while the pan is still warm, it's easy to deglaze this if anything got stuck. So, okay, so I'm just going to scrap that one and start fresh since I wasn't paying attention to it. Trying to multitask for the video, and sometimes that's not a good idea, so we'll just start over, and that's alright. No harm done. Alright, got the lid off that. So I'm just going to eyeball this here, and we really don't need a lot of this since it's just the three of us. You can use however much you want to kind of make your own sauce. And I'm just going to leave that on medium to start with and keep it on medium. That'll heat up plenty just on medium, and we won't risk burning it as much. So sometimes cooking's trial and error, and you just kind of do it, the French call it cooking learné, or by the nose, by intuition, and sometimes you just got to start over or make a few adjustments if the recipe doesn't work out quite the way you want it to what works in your kitchen. Our gas stove tends to get really hot, so that's why I'm lowering the temperature. Even though the original recipe said that high to begin with was fine. Okay. Alright, so I preheated our oven to 400. And I'm going to pop in our chicken and our tomatoes. And these are just chicken breast halves, so they'll cook through pretty quickly. So I'm going to set our timer for 20 minutes. And that should be enough time to cook the chicken and the tomatoes, but I can kind of check the chicken, and if it doesn't look cooked through and completely opaque, then I can cook it for a few more minutes if I need to. But I'm going to start with 20 at 400. That should be plenty. If I was only cooking it at 350, I'd do the chicken for 30 minutes, even with those thin pieces. if you're cooking more chicken, if you had a bigger family, or you're doing whole chicken breast, you might need to cook it a little bit longer. Alright, so I'm stirring this and paying some attention to it so we don't get into the mess we had last time. There's really not a lot of liquid in the pan, so it's cooking fairly fast. But we don't need much sauce for this. If you missed it earlier, we're just reducing some balsamic vinegar, and that'll make it a little bit thicker and sweeter and be a nice topping for our chicken and tomatoes. About halfway through cooking the chicken, I'm going to add some slices of fresh mozzarella to it and then pop it back in the oven so that the mozzarella can get nice and melty, but I don't want the mozzarella in there the whole time for this dish. As caprese chicken, or caprese salad with the tomatoes and the caprese is usually served cold, but I want it to be melted on the chicken, but I don't want it to be browned and bubbly like I would for a pasta dish. So I just want it to be melted but not super browned on top. So I'm only cooking that for part of the time. And then when the chicken, tomatoes, and mozzarella are all done cooking, I'm going to add some fresh basil leaves on top that I have over here. I already pulled some off. I might grab some more from my basil plant that's over there. Basil plants are pretty easy to find at the supermarket, or if you just want to grab a little package of fresh basil from the refrigerated section, that would work too. If those aren't accessible, and you just have some dry basil on hand, sprinkling some of that on top would be good too. You'll really get some nice freshness from the fresh basil. A lot more intense flavor and brightness. Plus, it looks really pretty. The green from the basil and then the red tomatoes and the white mozzarella makes for a very pretty plate, and it's the colors of the Italian flag too. Alright. This is coming up nicely here. I think this is going to take longer than the recipe. This is not going to take as long as the recipe suggested, even doing it on the lower temperature. So you can't always trust the recipe at first glance. Kind of follow your intuition when you're cooking, like I said before. Alright. Yeah, it's already starting to cook the back of the spoon a little bit, so I'm just going to let this go for maybe a little bit longer. Pushing thicker for more minutes here. So this will be good served over the top of some salad, like some spinach or some arugula, and with some bread to go with it. We might have some leftover asparagus tonight that I cooked yesterday with this instead of a salad. I think that would go really well too. Nice healthy vegetable. This is also a really good meal if you're doing low carb, because basically you're getting all proteins and veggies here and a little bit of dairy between the chicken and the cheese, and then the tomatoes, and whether you're doing salad or another vegetable like asparagus. It's very low carb, gluten free. So I'm just going to leave the cheese well, I might put some dairy-free mozzarella on top of chicken. I bet he would like that. We do have some, yeah, so this is starting to get really thick. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. That's the nice thing about gas, is that even though it gets really hot, which can be good sometimes if you're trying to, let's say, boil water quickly, when you turn the heat off, it's off the heat. So that's nice. So this is much thicker, and you can see it's coating the spoon there. So that's going to be a perfect sauce to drizzle over our chicken, and it finished cooking really quickly towards the end. It thickened up really fast. So this would be a good one to definitely keep your eye on and watch and stir so it doesn't burn. All right. So I have about 5 more minutes before I'm going to pull this out and put the fresh mozzarella slices on top for ours. And I'll probably pull out the dairy-free mozzarella shreds and give James some too, because he pretty much likes dairy-free on anything these days. And if he's more likely to eat it, then that's great, since he's a toddler and can be picky every now and then. And then we're going to, once this finishes baking and I pop it back in the oven, I'm going to drizzle the balsamic over that and add the fresh basil leaves and then serve it with the veggie, and then we'll be all set. So I'll take some pictures at the end so y'all can see the finished product. Y'all have a great rest of your evening and bon appetit.